Hello everybody, what's good, what's poppin'? Welcome to My Midlife Crisis. So today we're talking about my vacation horror story when we got stranded in Istanbul. Now the original reason we were going to Istanbul was so that I could get a BBL because your girl is a hitless wonder. But unfortunately the BBL had to be cancelled because I did not put enough weight on in time. They did offer me a skinny BBL, but it wasn't going to give me those Nicki Minaj and Cardi B results, so I decided the best thing to do was to cancel the BBL. But flights were booked, flight prices are through the roof. I was like, we're still getting on that plane. We're not wasting 600 quid on flights here, guys. So we thought, great, let's go away for a couple of days and let's enjoy Istanbul. So I decided to book an apartment with Airbnb. The reviews were amazing. They said that the apartment was really calm, it was really relaxing, and that is exactly what I needed because I just needed somewhere to get away from the stress and just rest. There were no issues in the booking process. There were no issues with the communication with the host at that point. It was a little bit tricky because the host didn't speak English and I didn't speak Turkish, so we were communicating through Google Translate, but he was really attentive. The only red flag that I noticed when it came to this host was when we moved over to WhatsApp, his WhatsApp picture was him holding a massive GUN. So the itinerary set, he has sent the address beforehand. He's even sent images of the surrounding area so we can kind of get our bearings when we get there. So it's flight day, everything is going well. We use Turkish Airlines. By the way, I highly recommend Turkish Airlines if you're going to Turkey. And also if you're going long haul and you're stopping off in Istanbul to do a crossover, because apparently Istanbul airport is like the heart of the world. Apparently that was one of their mottos. I'm sure it was Istanbul airport, the heart of the world. So we arrive in Istanbul at around midnight. And bear in mind, we have one of those cash cards, okay? So we don't have any Turkish lira in cash. We have all our Turkish lira on a MasterCard cash card. It's supposed to be more convenient. Supposed to be. So we need to get a taxi. We head over to one of the airport's ATMs, pop the card in, no money. Nothing's happening, the ATM crashes. Luckily, it gives us our card back. Go over to the next ATM, same thing happens, the ATM crashes. Go over to the next ATM, and you think we would have learned our lesson by now, don't you? Pop the card in, the ATM eats the card, and we're like, oh. We go and exchange some cash at the airport, and then eventually, after a very long wait, we finally get our card back. You know, there is like a little bit of inconvenience and a little bit of drama from the get-go. But, you know, these things happen, okay? You don't have a holiday without drama, do you? Next up, now we've got the cash, let's go and get in a taxi. Let's go to the Airbnb. Bear in mind, it's probably like 1 AM in Turkey at this point. Okay, we are knackered, we've been traveling all day. We just want to get to the Airbnb and we just want to relax. So we find an airport taxi service and we show them the address that is in my notes because I don't have roaming, I am tight, I don't want to pay for the roaming, so I have everything we need written down in my phone, in my notes, so I don't have to access that internet. So we show the taxi driver the address and the taxi driver is looking a little bit confused. I'm asking, is everything okay? As you do, you know, I don't speak Turkish, but I can sense body language and I'm being completely ignored. Now, I don't know much about Turkish culture, but I have been to Turkey and the surrounding countries quite a few times. And I do know that some masculines there can be a little bit about women. Okay, so I'm sitting there thinking, excuse me, and then my partner, he's talking and everyone's listening to him, and I'm like, I'm the voice of reason here. He's an idiot. You should be speaking to me. But either way, taxi driver eventually says, it's okay, I know where this address is. So we're driving through Istanbul. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't expecting the Ritz or anything like that, but we are driving on dirt roads. We're driving really, really out of the way on some dirt roads. I'm thinking, we need a 4x4 to get to this destination, what's going on? Now we arrive at this so-called destination at about 1:30 AM. And I'm looking around and I'm like, this ain't the place. Now my boyfriend is speaking to the taxi. Bear in mind that my boyfriend is a Libra rising, no shade on Libra risings, but they seem to be too polite for their own good. You can tell the taxi driver wants us to get out of the taxi, whilst I'm there saying, look, this ain't the place, we shouldn't get out of the taxi. My boyfriend is trying to be courteous to the taxi driver by reassuring me that this is definitely the place. He is promising me it is definitely the place and we can get out of the taxi. Now I'm even pulling out the pictures that the Airbnb guy sent to us. I'm showing the taxi driver this ain't the place, I'm showing my boyfriend this ain't the place. But again, my boyfriend is like, please trust me. We are in the right place. Let's get out of the taxi, let's go and let's rest. Now, I'm a hard-faced bitch, but inside I'm a little softy and I'm a pushover, so I get out of the taxi. And as soon as we step out that taxi is speeding off up the dirt track. There's literally sand going everywhere. Like, that taxi was rushing to get out of that place. And I swear to you, as soon as we got out that taxi, I looked at my boyfriend and he went pale. He knew at that moment, as soon as he took a full spin, as soon as that taxi drove up the road, as soon as the dust hit his eyeballs, he knew that he'd FCUK'd up. So it's 1:30 AM. We are in the middle of nowhere in Turkey. We are confused as to why we're not at the Airbnb address, and it is freezing cold, okay? It is out of season in Turkey. There are houses around, but there are big massive gates around those houses and humongous dogs on chains. Some of them behind the gates, but a lot of them outside of the gates. And all I am saying at this moment to my boyfriend is, you are an idiot. I'm literally thinking in my head, as soon as I get home, you're dumped. Like, this is the worst situation that I've ever been in my life. And it gets worse. So I'm panicking, but in a very Capricorn Stellium way, where I'm constantly calling my boyfriend an idiot, but I'm also creating a plan for us to go and find a prominent location so we can find our bearings. My boyfriend, on the other hand, he wants to stay put. So I decide to walk off without him and try and find some form of civilization. And then a big, massive Rottweiler jumps out at me. Now, I am petrified at this point. My boyfriend is in pure shock. We are fearing for our lives. We don't know whether we're going to have our legs by 3 a.m. So we back off very calmly and go and find a little cubby hole away from the big, massive guard dogs. And I mean, there's literally dogs barking constantly. And I'm thinking, look, if one of these dogs isn't going to rip our faces off, someone is going to come out with a GUN, someone is going to come out and they are going to be really peeved off that we have woken them up and disturbed their dogs. So we sit next to a wall in the shadows, and I finally decide to stop being tight and buy some data for my phone. So first thing I do is I message the Airbnb host. Next thing I do is try and organise a taxi. So I call up the taxi service and they do not speak English. They are saying, sorry, we cannot help you. We are absolutely freezing at this point and we are really scared. And I can tell you that I felt so uncomfortable in this area. Like, I've got instincts. The area is also really suspect because there was a lot of flashing beacons. There were like really tall fences, and the best way I can describe it is like Jurassic Park, you know, the fences to keep the T-Rexes in. So we were questioning whether we were in a restricted area, whether we were somewhere where we are not supposed to be. And I mean, that would make a hell of a lot of sense why there would be so many dogs. And I mean that we were literally surrounded by about, I want to say 20 big, massive dogs on chains. So we are sitting pretty in the shadows. We are freezing cold. We are confused. And we're at the point now where we're thinking we could actually be SHOT'd down because we could be somewhere where we're not even supposed to be. And then eventually, after an hour of waiting, the Airbnb guy messages back. He asks for the location. I send him the location and he's like, you're not where you're supposed to be. You are nowhere near the Airbnb. And I'm like, I've used the address that you've given me. And then he came back saying, oh, whoops, I've misspelled the address. So I asked him, what are we supposed to do? We've called a taxi. And he said, no taxi gonna pick you up from there, mate. Which is also very suspect, why no taxi would come and pick us up from where we are. But the lovely host offered to get his friend to come and pick us up, and we panicked and said yes. Now after about 5 minutes, what's actually happened does start to sink in. And we're thinking, how has he given us the wrong address? Why is his friend coming to pick us up? Why is he holding a GUN in his WhatsApp picture? And we think, is this a setup? I swear, the look on our faces when we looked at each other is like, we can't DIE tonight in Istanbul. So then we finally get the brainwave to do what we should have done straight away, and that is to call the Turkish police. So we call the Turkish police, no English. They don't speak no English. But eventually we do get a translator and they do finally understand us, and we're like, help. Help. We tell them what's happened. We tell them that the Airbnb guy's friend is coming to pick us up and he's holding a GUN in his WhatsApp picture and we think we've been set up. Now the beautiful Turkish police say we will get somebody to come out and pick you up, and all of a sudden me and my boyfriend finally feel our spirits lift. We finally feel like we're going to be saved. We're going to be taken back to the airport. The only issue is we're going to have to get a hotel, but I'm cool with that at this point because I am done with that host and that Airbnb. But then we remember the friend of the Airbnb host is still on their way, most probably with space in their boot for both me and my partner's body. So we frantically find somewhere to hide, and we find this grassy bank where we're not really hidden. It's a little bit when your toddler wants to play hide and seek. They sit behind the sofa but their legs are sticking out the sofa and you're like, I can see you. Now that friend does turn up and we are literally huddled so tight in this grassy bank area. We know we can be seen. All this person has to do is look over and he will see that we are there. But luckily, God was shining over us that night and he did not see us, and I don't know how. Eventually, after quite a while actually, and quite a few messages from the Airbnb host, he finally leaves. And then about half an hour after that, the police turn up and they take us back to the airport. Straight up, get an Expedia, book a lavish hotel, or book a spa because I need some relaxation and I need civilization after that experience. But then buying the lavish hotel totally ate into our budget. So we were in this beautiful hotel. I mean like 5-star beautiful hotel, not one fault. Everything was absolutely perfect. but I'm living on chips for 5 days. And then when we got to the hotel, my boyfriend actually Googled the area that we were actually in, the area where we got stranded in, and it turns out it is one of the 10 most dangerous areas in Istanbul. And we were stranded there for probably about 3-4 hours from like, what? Was it like 1 a.m. till about 4-5 a.m.? Dude, we're lucky to be alive. As dramatic as it sounds, I feel like we are actually lucky to be alive. I am currently in correspondence with Airbnb to get a refund, but it's taken some time. No offense to the Airbnb customer services. Honestly, I really do feel like I am gonna get my refund, but they've got to correspond with me and the host. And the host doesn't feel like they've done anything wrong by giving us the wrong address. Now, I'd hope that that Airbnb host wasn't planning anything dodgy, but there were red flags and there were questions as to why we were given the wrong address. And I'm guessing you guys are probably a lot more savvy than I am, but if you were ever stuck anywhere abroad, if you ever feel like you're in danger abroad, call the police. Yes, we could have risked getting in a car with a stranger, but at 3, 4, 5 a.m. in the morning, I don't even know what time it was now, in the middle of absolutely nowhere, which did turn out to be one of the 10 most dangerous places in Istanbul, I think we did the right thing by calling the police instead. So that is my vacation horror story and how we got stranded in Istanbul. You know what to do. Like this video, comment down below and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you so much for being here and thank you for being part of my midlife crisis. I appreciate you all so much and I shall see you next time. Take a photo, pose up. Get lost in limbo. What am I doing? I'm below. Next apart, like you know.